Come on. I always forget I can back to psychedelics today. Joe Moore here. We have Shane Mauss. Shane, how's it going?
I'm great, Joe. Good to see you again. This will be our longest conversation ever, though. I think, even though we've met before.
Yes. So, Shane, you're a science communicator and a comedian. Can we talk about being a science communicator for a minute?
Yeah. I asked Joe. I was like, I don't know. I sometimes call myself a science communicator, but it feels so awkward, and I don't have like a better thing for it because I can't call myself a science-inspired philosopher. Is that more or less pretentious than philosopher? Either way, there's no not being cringe or awkward about like. The title, any title that I would give myself that also kind of clearly represents my interests. And so we had this whole conversation. Then you open with science community. You're a stinker, Joe. You're a straight up stinker.
Yeah, I try. So, you're not wrong though. Science communicator is potentially the best title. You kind of have
it's what I'm most passionate about. I love interviewing scientists. I love reading science books. I love trying to inject science into comedy in weird ways that ruins my career. Not for like getting canceled, like people being like, "Oh, I don't want to learn anything." Like I did not come to this comedy club to learn something this evening. You're fired.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for trying to explain anything quantum to me. Appreciate you, but no longer. So let's talk about what do you do these days? What would you say you do here? You got a comedy special we'll chat about in a little bit. What else do you do?
Yeah. So I started as a regular old stand-up comedian over 20 years ago. I caught breaks in like 2007. I was like on late night, this young up-and-coming comedian that had only been in the game for a couple years. I got to like I did like 8 TV shows in a year and did all these things, and I was able to, I was like in my 20s and was able to be a full-time comedian, and I kind of like accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and I think it was like between a mix of arrogance and also just like getting older and wanted to do more than like I was such a passionate like, no, I'm gonna go and do all of the comedy clubs, and then I realized like, oh, you're just entertaining drunk people with like dick jokes and drinking jokes. Like there's got to be something more. And I was always reading science books I never went to college or anything. I'm a bit of an autodidact, speaking of pretentious terms. And and I started reaching out to scientists like whose books that I had read with some questions, and I was shocked how like open, how excited any scientist was to like, oh my god, someone gives a shit about my work. And so I started this podcast, Here We Are, and everywhere I was traveling with comedy, I started interviewing scientists about all manner of random stuff and trying to learn and take online courses and get up to speed. And then I started infusing a lot of the things that I was learning. I'm an epiphany junkie is what I am, and whenever I have an epiphany, I just want to share that experience with people. That's like my favorite feeling in the whole wide world. And especially if I can use comedy to help convey some of those ideas. And so yeah, I started doing themed shows. I had a Netflix special called Mating Season lifetimes ago. That was like my first time taking a whack at doing a themed thing. And then I made this album about breaking my feet and the evolution of negative emotions and that sort of thing. I started piecing together a lot of science themed shows, psychedelics being one of them. I had no idea psychedelics were like a popular topic. No idea. I thought it was like this taboo thing that you couldn't talk about. That was like my experience working in comedy clubs. And lo and behold, audiences came out for it. That led to this big 111 city tour back in like 2016 to 17, kind of right before you and I met. and this documentary Psychonautics, Comics Exploration of Psychedelics. And then I wanted to do a special with it for a long time, but moved on to a lot of other projects. And then this opportunity came up to kind of work with a VJ and a bunch of different visual artists to add visuals to the experience. And so that's the specials that I just put out. Trips, a 2-part psychedelic comedy special, first special filmed at Meow Wolf, 20 different psychedelic artists and visuals blended together dynamically in real time, and I'm done. That was actually record speed for me explaining myself. So that's why we just stick with science communicator.
So, I think it's funny, like drugs not being a topic we want to talk about in comedy, right? Like, I think in around 2009 to like 2015, 2016, I think it was just getting like bottled up in me. I started studying super hard like 2001, and then I'm like, people got to know. People have to understand this shit. What is going on that they don't even understand it and don't talk about it? And you probably is that what you're feeling?
Yeah, so my the psychedelic history and then watching the way the audience changed, there's a really so my first trip was when I was 16, 1996, and I, absolutely life-changing. I was one of the kids that immediately would, anytime there's mushrooms around, I would try to buy a pound so I could sell them to all my friends and get 40 of us together to have a massive trip and stuff. And it was just my thing that I was into. And so I started comedy then when I was 23 in 2003. And I always would sprinkle in some psychedelic jokes here and there. And I was also kind of a short joke absurdist person anyway. So people already kind of looked at me a little off sometimes, kind of like a Stephen Wright or Emo Phillips was almost a little more my vibe at the time, to shorthand it. And so I felt like the psychedelic material that you could get away with at that time was Cheech and Chong type. I did drugs and I did this dumb thing because I didn't understand what was happening, and I had and so my first comedy album had a mushroom joke on it. And I remember my second time doing Conan, and this is when my name was kind of popping off. I'd already been on the show once, and this is the late the old original Conan, the super late, you're going on at 1 a.m, no one's watching this thing, but they were fine with all the other content that I had, and I was an edgy-ish joke guy, but this adorable mushroom joke was the thing that I had to fight with the FCC over. This is 2007, and so that's where things were. And then by the time 2015-16 rolled around, there was I felt like there was a real demand and culture for it. There was also social media had made it easier to kind of find the others, and there were these Facebook psychedelic groups starting and things like that. And so that was still so it was growing in popularity in a hurry, but there was still a lot of reluctance within the industry. I remember getting feedback at the time trying to pitch the idea of a special and whatnot, and the problem wasn't drug references. The problem was saying that these things might be positive for you. That's why the Cheech and Chong stuff, in fact, everyone was after every streaming service and everything. They were trying to chase another Breaking Bad or whatever, or Ari Shaffir had this show on Comedy Central. It's a fun show. This Isn't Happening, but it's inherently the disclaimers in the story. You did drugs, you did something wildly inappropriate, you drove and murdered a prostitute or whatever. And so, but to say that psychedelics could be good for mental health, that was the thing that was a bridge too far. It really was. And it wasn't until, and this was like not just the, it might have just been capturing a moment, but I remember my first tour ended May 2017, and that's where things were. And then Michael Pollan's book came out like either end of that month or like June 2017, and that like completely changed the culture and how normalized all of this was.
Which, like, it's kind of interesting that such a straight-laced character opened it up.
It really is, and it's like
Yeah.
his book's like good for noobs for sure, but it's also like a tad toward the boring side. He's a great communicator. I like his other books, like the Botany of Desire and stuff.
Very reasonable science communicator. You should talk.
Very reasonable. Yeah. I haven't read his new book on consciousness, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. Maybe I'll give him some more time. So, I think it's an interesting thing. Like, I remember Carlin had a handful of jokes about it. There was another guy that had this whole
Bill Hicks was kind of like known for yeah. Yep.
But not very many others, right?
Yeah, and there was like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was like the movie that had really like captured some of that, but that was also like so reckless and other things too.
I tried to do all those things. It's
yeah,
mostly works in Vegas. So did you know Timothy Leary kind of identified himself as a stand-up philosopher?
Oh, really? That's funny.
Well, he would say that about himself on stage.
Yeah. He was kind of. I mean, that's I love the psychedelic ego is really something to behold, and it's funny that
these minds. And I've spent like it must be 100 hours listening to his lectures, so it makes sense. So
his lectures, that makes sense.
I mean, sorry. I've spent many, like hundreds of hours just digging into his lectures, and it amazing. Really changed a lot of the way I think quite a bit about psychedelics, and they're all available on Psychedelic Salon. Lorenzo Haggerty put those out ages ago. Plenty of good Terrence there, plenty of good Sasha there, so you can get really deep. I kind of brainwashed myself. I would go to sleep listening to this stuff and listen to it all day at work when it was in my early 20s.
That's amazing. I'm just the opposite. I do no research about psychedelics. I research all sorts of other fields of science. I do psychedelics, and then I also come up with a lot of the questions that I ask scientists. Not a lot, but many are inspired by ideas that I've had about kind of the subconscious mind and why these experiences are the way they are. And then I like talking with people in other fields. I don't tell them that I get inspired by psychedelics, but and that's the other thing too, is like I remember I think I started my science podcast in 2014 or something like that, and I remember being like very scared to like even broach the idea with like a respectable academic scientist that I was interested in psychedelics, and also very surprised how open they were, and many scientists inspired to get into science by psychedelics, and now it's I don't know. I think whenever something gets like there like not enough attention, there's a lot of energy, like everyone needs to hear this, and then when it gets like a lot of attention, people are like, oh, all right, let's settle down a little bit, and we're kind of in these like let's settle down waves, but then there's the push to kind of explore at the same time that people are now like acclimating to all of the other psychedelics being potentially good or what have you. People are just kind of used to being able to buy mushrooms or whatever. Now there's the push to now it's like now we all need to get into like the 5-meo and the ibogaine and like what's the next, which as a psychonaut, like I get that you have to do the next thing, like I that's how kind of maybe like my brain sort of works that way, like I guess I have to try it. But as a cultural, like as like the psychedelic tourist meets like wellness community side of things, some of it is like I don't know how
Overkill.
it seems
So
like
like,
a bit of an overkill. Yeah.
let's talk about the 90s. So like you started in 96 consuming psychedelics. Like what was kind of like the thing that attracted you?
I mean, I well, boy. Oh wow, that's a good question. I don't think anything good. Like I was a very rebellious young kid. I just wanted to get into, I was always in detention. My parents were always trying to figure out how, my sweet, adorable, well-meaning parents who did their best but were very wholesome Midwestern people, like didn't understand, and I was like, the more they tried to like control me, the more I wanted to rebel. And I knew I wanted to be a comedian since I was like 10 years old, and so I was just always looking for trouble. And and like I wasn't like influenced by the bad crowd. I was like sniffing out a bad crowd and trying to find more bad crowds and connect bad crowds together. And 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 so I'm and I think that's like potentially psychedelics may have saved my life just in that way alone. Like there's many times in life where I feel like psychedelics may have saved me, but just that it wasn't like meth or something that the first, because I was in a place where I probably would have like I could not wait to try weed and mushrooms. I just remembered that it just seemed cool to me, and I remembered wanting to be in with like the cool like rebel kids. And I was so thrilled the first time someone finally offered me weed, which was like 15 years old or something like that. So I was like a late bloomer. I felt like the real cool kids were already smoking weed at like 12 to 14 maybe. And so I was like, is anyone ever gonna share their weed with me? Like it was a source of insecurity for me. And so when I smoked weed for the first time, I mean fucking knocked my socks off. I loved it. It was the best. I was such a depressed, miserable, insecure kid, and I just remember the first time I had weed, just laughing for 4 hours straight, having the time of my life, so into it. And I was just immediately seeking like more things in that space. And then mushrooms was so much more beyond that, because weed was like silly and fun for me. I'm sure it's therapeutic for a lot of people. Do we still need to advocate for weed?
There's people still in jail, right? Like,
Oh fuck! There's people
yes.
still in jail, and there's people that
Mm-hmm.
are still, because that's the other. Sometimes I hear people like, "Oh, it was better back when all these things were illegal and like they were cooler or whatever." It's like, you just got to find new ways to be cool. That doesn't justify
Right.
like locking up innocent people, like
Right.
so that you can feel a little cooler.
Thank you for saying that out loud. Yeah. Like you can find other ways to break the rules, guys. It's easy. Not
It
hard.
is so
A
easy.
lot of rules.
I'm walking into convenience stores, no shirt, no shoes, left, and I don't give a fuck. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. It's
so
um it's fascinating that how a lot of folks got into, well, this is actually an interesting generational thing. I wonder about like the younger folks today. They're like, oh, that's medical. I'm like, I don't care. I'll wait till a doctor gives it to me when I need it. Versus like I feel cool by breaking the law and trying these taboo things.
yeah, I'm trying to get a sense. I don't have that many friends that have like older kids, most so I have like some that are just approaching the age where they're like starting to mess with weed and stuff, and I try to like ask them like what the vibe is. I do get the sense that in a lot of places they're like not really drinking anymore, so you go to like a frat party and like everyone's like eating mushrooms now. And now, but there's not just like the mushroom people like there used to be. It's like now there's like, are you like the MAGA mushroom person or the hippie mushroom person or the tech mushroom person? It's like it's yeah, it's definitely expanded quite a bit beyond the long-haired, bearded van life hippie cliche.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I I did have hair a little bit longer than you and a beard. I couldn't get it that long.
You could get, I didn't know I could do
Yeah.
this either. This was a
Yeah.
COVID project. This wasn't even drugs. I was on the least amount of drugs I'd ever been on in my life when I grew all this hair, oddly enough.
Mm.
The most I ever looked like I was on drugs was the least amount of drugs I was ever doing.
Yeah. Well, we have that in common. Yeah. Gotta keep it buttoned up, these days. But I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, there's always been a cultural shift. The taboo always makes us interested, especially when we get some media references to like, oh, this is a really interesting thing, or that looked goofy and funny, like Johnny Depp as Hunter.
Yeah.
Um, and then you're like, what McConaughey, a lot cooler if you did, kind of thing, and whatever that movie was. And
Was it
there's
Dazed and Confused? Was he
I think
Dazed and
so.
Confused?
I think
Okay, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously it was a huge thing in the 60s and most of the 70s, but I don't know what happened. Did people get really was like Nancy Reagan really that scary to everybody and they wanted to like change what they talked about, or who knows?
I
I don't get it.
I don't
Um
yeah. Yeah,
hmm.
it's a whole thing. I definitely I mean my parents were definitely, and like my upbringing was really really cookie cutter, and everyone was like this is the way life ought to be, and it was like very Pleasantville-ish. It was like I don't know if like it was trying to like norm core of the 50s came back in the 80s or something, because I think that maybe that just comes back every 30 years or something like that. Norm core makes a real comeback.
Mhm.
This like odd
Yeah.
like straight edge idealist a
Yeah.
lifestyle. I
Like
don't
Chevy
know.
Chase and Christmas Vacation and
Yeah, yeah.
Dreyfus as the neighbor. It's like the two edges of normcore. It's interesting. So, getting into comedy it's no joke. That's brutal. Um,
Yeah.
I, somebody was saying that you have to go on stage like 100 times just knowing you're going to eat shit and eventually you're going to catch an edge, like, was it like that for you? Did psychedelics play any kind of part in that whole process?
I mean, I honestly I thought psychedelics were like a cheat code. Like I thought they were like my little secret that I had like discussed. So I was writing a little bit of comedy. I was watching stand up basically every day from the age of 10 years old, and then I started writing when I was like 15. I meant to start right out of high school and just had stage fright and stuff, and put it off for years. But I definitely, you know, um, it was especially. I think that I don't know if it's less absurd now that I'm getting older, but I always had kind of this absurdist type mind, and so like that the joke that got censored on or that I had to fight the FCC over to get aired at 1 a.m. on late night with Conan lifetimes ago was about how I'd eaten too many mushrooms, wandered into a Best Buy, and inadvertently found myself in the camcorder department and thought I was watching a movie about me watching a movie about me. And it's just like this
That
silly
was too much?
little absurd. That isn't that crazy? That's the
Oh my god.
cutest
Yeah.
fucking joke I've ever heard. Like that joke's too safe for me to even say on stage now. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's way too cute.
Yeah.
And but I say it because it was like I actually thought of that joke not on mushrooms and some made up. I was just in a camcorder department and like had that experience and wrote the thing. It was like mushrooms, putting it in the context of being on mushrooms allowed for the absurdity of the experience to like feel more real or something. And so I feel like the psychedelics and psychedelic spaces and psychedelic festivals and things, it's something like a, I don't know, like a permission slip or something for play and silliness and absurdity, even when you aren't on the substances themselves. So in that way, and like I mean, I used to write, I don't know that I write that much material on psychedelics these days, but I used to write so much material while eating mushrooms by myself. And you know, have to clean it up quite a bit afterwards. But like I got a lot of really great inspiring ideas from it. And so yeah, I kind of forget the framing of the original question that got me into this, but that was
Yeah, it's
that.
around like just psychedelics influencing getting on stage and being able to like maybe be okay with embarrassment or taking more risks.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, psychedelics are just hyper introspective. And so they're like noticing more things about. So, one thing a comic does that is relevant to that, and yeah, you do have to learn to eat shit and all of that. I was so lucky early on. I took a comedy class and ate shit at like 8 open mics before having my first like killer set. And there's a bunch of local comics around, and I destroyed, and all these local comics got me in all the popular comedy clubs in Boston. People like Joe List, who's was like a couple years ahead of me, and it got me in a bunch of places, and so I was a little privileged in that way, but it's also an ongoing. I've now been doing stand up for 23 years, and it's a consistently like getting out of your comfort zone and everything. But I think that one thing that comedians do is you start with your worst foot forward, and then you point out your worst foot, and then mock your worst foot. You know, like we're very self-deprecating. We like assess ourselves. We take a look at this situation and go like, okay, how can I get up in front of people and make fun of this and like be vulnerable? At least that's what comedy used to be. There's this whole like bully comedy bullshit that's like really having a moment right now. But so I think the introspective aspect of mushrooms is what does it for me. But there's still like there's some people with some like Cheech and Chong vibes still out there. There was like Doug Benson was doing it with weed for a while, and then
Like super high me.
yeah, and then like there's this new guy that's pretty popular, Craig Conant, who's he's kind of like the, you know, very likable, a little like baked like perma stoner type type situation. So maybe there's always a market for that sort of thing. But I'd really like to see the like really elevated shit, you know, like say, yeah, psychedelics are so much inspiration for such incredible ideas and open-mindedness. And I think that I think first off, I think during COVID, everyone just like all of our IQs dropped some, and when you're under stress and duress, the world's fucked and everything else, there's a real market for simplicity and like easier kind of jokes and less cognitively demanding entertainment. And so I think that there's a possibility that some of the entertainment might get a little more elevated, and I think that psychedelics would have a really nice place in some new more elevated content. Like, I haven't seen the show Euphoria, but my sense is that that's kind of an intelligent-ish show representing
Not
young
heard of that one
people.
yet. Oh, but we're
It's on
3 seasons
HBO.
in already. Good
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
I'm behind. Well, I'll let you know. So, yeah, just comedy is a funny art form, and it's like, very long history, and it has so many permutations. The bully thing, the stand-up philosopher thing, everyone. If people don't have a reasonable grasp on Carlin, they should probably do a review. Be helpful for surviving 2026.
But it's so funny because comedians are like, oh, or people are like, comedians are like our modern philosophers or whatever. Like, oh, really? Like who? Like Carlin. Like, okay, name one more. How about name a second one? Oh, it's Carlin. This one guy did the thing the one time.
Let's say Hicks, but
yeah, Hicks for sure. I mean,
right.
There's definitely people out there. Bo Burnham, I would say, is doing it in a different kind of way, and there's smart stuff out there, but it's also just stand-up's having like a really moment in the mainstream right now, and the mainstream is just mainstream's fucking football and Budweiser.
Right. We were watching a movie last night, Fountain of Youth. Jim from The Office, I forget his name, and who is the other person? Natalie Portman. I had to ask my girlfriend, who is that? She, Natalie Portman. I was like, oh, yeah, I should probably be able to say who Natalie Portman is, but sorry.
Yeah.
But it's like, it could be really good, but they made it for mass market, and like, it's kind of a bummer because it's right there in the script to do smart stuff, but they like, let's make it a little dumber.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I think that's just the market. And what is the project you're trying to make? Is it for a niche or is it for everybody? And
yeah. I mean, Arrested Development was cut on its halfway through its third season. It was cut. It's maybe the best comedy show ever made. And granted, this was Fox, so it was like network television when streaming was just starting to like become a thing. Maybe not really, even though. But
people just not like it. I don't understand like why they did that.
It's it's so funny that like the person that makes that decision to look at that show and go like, oh, you know what, we should cancel the show. Not we should fire the marketing team that isn't getting the best comedy ever made out to the people, or like maybe I should quit my job. Maybe I'm doing something wrong because this is failing. It's no, we're going to cancel the funniest show ever made because it's not getting like enough ratings, or like the fuck is wrong, and like that's the show's fault. I don't know. And
Right.
so I would, I mean, I think that there's a lot of room for psychedelics to do the elevated stuff, but then there's, I mean, I have my own bones to pick with plenty of aspects of the psychedelic community and the wellness plus woo plus whatever side of things, getting into mostly all of that was just fine and dandy like 10 years ago, but it didn't scale well. It's like it's one thing when there's like, when you're at like a festival and the person selling you their like Hape also has like some boof supplement that's gonna make you immortal or whatever, and it's kind of like adorable, and life's about finding the placebo that works for you, and why not stick some weird fucking carrot seeds in your anus or whatever that some wizard looking person told you about. But now it's like once you try to scale that, and now it's like in Whole Foods and everything, and your grandma's getting that shit and everything. And it's just like it's all just stupid now. It's all just like pseudoscience, magical thinking, conspiratorial, arrogant, just the most arrogant, massive ego fucking dickheads too about it. And so I don't know, and I think those are the people trying to like be the elevated intellectual side of things. So I don't know, maybe it's just hard to be smart.
We don't get trained. Like these stupid machines have made it like a lot harder.
Man.
AI made it harder. I want to stay on the butt stuff for just a second longer. So
please,
I got sent.
Can you cut that out and please be that send that
Psychedelic Proctologist Association.
Our mission is spoofing,
and it's like a whole conference schedule.
Oh, dude, I gotta get to that conference. I've still never boofed, and here's why. It's because I'm like sometimes lazy with writing, or I have like other projects that I'm doing, and I need to write the section of my boof material because I know it's gonna be a bit, so it's like, so I need to write the pre-boof section, like where my head was at before boofing, why I haven't boofed. Then I need to boof, and then so I have like the before and the after, and I've just been lazy about it, and so I still haven't boofed just because I'm a lazy writer.
It's not as easy as they tell you.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I see. I thought I could just stick a ketamine lozenge in my anus. Not that I'm saying people, the public should go out and do that.
It's not psychedelics say approved. Everybody don't do that, but it's not that hard. Like that works. But it's like when you make
does it take a long time to like melt it? Do you have to like be on your stomach for a while?
I don't know.
I've
not done it with like a hard thing.
So what my writing process would be asking all these questions, not looking it up, not doing research, just like what intuitively comes to mind for me, and then maybe like after the fact you look up like the right way to do things, kind of, and then you get like, because then you find the little tidbits of information and like really interesting insights. Like it seems like to me one of the more reasonable ways to do a lot of like ketamine rather than like snort. Also, I can't really snort ketamine anymore. I have like a weird like allergic response to snorting ketamine in particular. So I can only do IM, and that's not really conducive to just being out and about and injecting yourself.
That doesn't look good.
So I think I got to start boofing my K. But
yeah, for the longest time I refused to do it any other way than lozenge, and that was annoying.
An oral lozenge.
Yeah.
Well, does that upset your stomach though, or did you have a trick?
Some people, even with IM, like they'll administer Zofran before administering ketamine in a lozenge or IM or IV often if somebody's like prone to motion sickness. I've never had an issue.
I've only had the issue with the lozenge.
Really?
Well, that's why I'm like allergic. Well, I went on a real tear of snorting ketamine when I first got like really into it. And one day I just thought I thought I fucking blew out my septum or some shit, and everything was fine. But ever since that time, now my whole body will have like an allergic reaction. Like I'll sometimes like I'll at least have a cold for like a week or two, sometimes have like hive like situations and stuff, but with snorting in particular. But I am ketamine's this seems like such an irresponsible conversation, but also we're on psychedelics today. This is great. I mean, this is actually how real use happen. This is actually how I do these things. And I also think that ketamine is gosh, it's just, I I I've had like I pushed it a little too far with psychedelics way back in like 2017. Ended up losing my mind, had a trip to the psych ward and stuff. And ever since that time, I've been like a lot more skittish about just everything generally. And so it's always a whole ordeal that I have to go through. And sometimes I just need a reset or a little bit of break. And like, especially I'm usually not drinking. If I am drinking, my life's just a nightmare for the 3 months that I'm a binge drinking alcoholic before I like sober up again.
Ugh.
And
Yeah.
and so like I need something. Weed, I can't handle weed. That doesn't do it for me. And ketamine's just a fucking easy one, and it just, oh, I love the stuff. It just hits everything just right. And I know it's like the addictive one,
But you've
but
seen the people that push it too far,
yeah.
right? Like it's
Yeah, I guess. I'm just not worried about me doing that, honestly. I mean, I could see
right.
dying. I could see dying. Sure. I could see like I get the like I get the like you do too much or fall and you hit your head or something. But I'm not worried about like being addicted to ketamine.
Right.
That would have happened already.
Right. So
And
just
I
for
never I
listeners, just know that it can happen. But
oh
for those
yeah,
of
but
us who
for
it
me,
doesn't seem to happen to, it's
right.
like an interesting alcohol replacement, but it
Yeah.
can be a little sketchy sometimes.
It
And
can be
sometimes people just like 5 times a day. Like that's probably too much, you know?
every day, 5 times a day.
Dude, so like the hard end of this, so like Colorado gets the hard end of this stuff. Like Red Rock scene in the summer, like some people are just going really hard all the time and they'll have to get the bladder surgery. Do you know about that one?
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, dude. So like in some people, it can crystallize and cause serious issues with your bladder and
Oh
you'll need like surgery. And hopefully you can still pee after. Um, so like the idea is if it hurts to pee doing ketamine ever, take a very long break, if not a permanent break, because you don't want this surgery. Um,
wow.
and
Wow, wow,
check
wow, wow,
in
wow.
regularly with
Thank you for that information.
professionals. So we don't need that. So,
No shit.
it doesn't I assume you
Wow.
you pee fine on
I
ketamine.
do.
You
I
look
pee
like somebody that pees
great.
fine on ketamine. Yeah.
Oh yeah, people say that about me. They take one look at me and they go, "That guy, that guy looks like he pees problem free on ketamine." Not to
But I have
stereotype,
one
buddy.
friend who did it once and had problems for like 3 months
Oh
after. And it's
no!
friggin' crazy. Like, I don't understand.
Wow,
Drugs are confusing and
they
complicated,
really
and I think that's
are.
why I have a job. You know,
Yeah.
I try to make mistakes so people don't have to.
Well,
And
bless you for both doing all sorts of research and making the mistakes. It's usually there's not someone doing both of those things. Like I just make the mistakes. I don't research. I talk
it
about
takes
my
both.
mistakes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Doing both is great. I mean, I learn a lot about psychedelics just because I end up, talking with people that are informed like yourself and whatnot. But I don't the chance of me listening going through the archives to listen to old psychedelic lectures and keeping up with the papers and stuff
You
is
just
like,
gotta listen to give Timothy Leary 1 hour.
yeah, no, I'm definitely, and he and him I could. I guess, the little bits of clips that I saw, he just seems so fucking obnoxious to me that I just couldn't handle it. I'm like, maybe my fucking ego comes off big and stuff too, and I get it, and I apologize if that's the case. But like I've always found psychedelics to be such like a interesting, humbling, introspective thing. And so like whenever like if you go so my specials came out, if you go on my Instagram and like and find like the highlights that were posted, 800 Pound Gorilla Media pr- uh produced put out the special, Just read, like, just go to my reels, see some of the more popular ones, and then just go to the comments. And it's fucking hilarious. Like, the psychedelic ego is incredible. Like, I have a joke about how there's like this whole war between the mushrooms and LSD people, and like, what are we really fighting over here? You know, it's just a silly thing. And all the comments are like, there's no fight over mushrooms and LSD, and then how dare you say they could be similar-ish experience, and then like, it just people fucking attacking one another. Like, it's without a hint of irony that they're doing exactly the thing that I was making the joke out of. It's fucking hilarious, man. It's the person that did it. Like, they've had 3 psychedelic experiences, and they're now the biggest expert on psychedelics that the world's ever fucking seen.
Yeah.
It's
like, I read Pollen's book 4 times. How about you? And
oh, I like that character. The character that's read Michael Pollan's book 4 times and has it all figured out. Oh my goodness.
I think that's more of a cartoon than a real
Just
person. But if you're real, let me know.
finding new insights on each read too.
All right. So you said something interesting that not everybody knows about. You said in 2017 ish, psychedelics were too good. Was that, or how did you put it? Like, when you
when I like lost my mind,
right.
did too. Oh,
I think
yeah.
when I first met you, I think you had the line, it was too good of an experience. And
yeah. Oh, well, that was yeah. So what had happened was I was making this documentary, Psychonautics, Comics Exploration of Psychedelics. Again, that was a weird just happenstance. How I started doing a psychedelic show in the first place was I just mentioned psychedelics on a podcast, and all these people wrote me because they've heard me sharing some DMT experiences, and it was like, just a genuine conversation. I didn't even mean to be talking about it. And then that's how I discovered there's like actually a market for it. I'm like, oh, I have all this material, put together this tour. And then I did a bunch of podcasts promoting a psychedelic comedy tour. And then this, the producer of my specials as well, but my documentary Psychonautics, Matt Schuler, reached out to me, and he makes more comedy specials than anyone on the planet. He makes like fucking 3 a month or something, and he's that's all he does, and he's like, I've always wanted to do something besides just produce comedy specials. Do you have like I just think you're like so interested. You hear me on like Mark Maron's WTF or whatever, and he wanted to do like, he was wondering if I had like a sitcom idea or something. And I always wanted to do, the part of the reason I started the science podcast, Here We Are, which is coming back after a few year hiatus, in April, by the way. But I just wanted to remember the show Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe, where he'd go around and be like, hey, here's how like sewers are like made or cleaned, and like I wanted to do that, but with academia, like humanized show, like the real, like how actual like science gets done and that sort of thing. And so when we were talking, I was like, yeah, it's too bad you didn't get a hold of me earlier, because I'm doing this comedy gala at this MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Study. I don't need to say it for the Psychedelics Today audience, but they have this Psychedelic Science Conference 2017. Now, like, it's gonna be a scene, and it only happens like once every 4 years, and all the top researchers, a bunch of the top researchers are gonna be there. We could interview them and blah blah blah. And so we did that. We interviewed a bunch of the researchers that were there at that time, and that was like the biggest gathering of psychedelic research. And yeah, it was just it was great. And then we were like, well, now what do we do? And I was like, I guess I should just like do psychedelics. And so I didn't really know what the angle was with the documentary. So, and we had like a short amount of time to do it and really low budget and everything. And I just started like eating mushrooms constantly because I went into a depression, and then I like also I was trying to like really stay tapped into the psychedelic state and come up with ideas. And mushrooms are like my main thing that I love, and especially at the time. Um, and so I was doing them like 3 times a week, and originally it was because I was in this real funk where I historically, if I did like a larger dose, like 5 grams or so, it would like help get me out of a depression. And then if that didn't work, I would just repeat that every 2 to 3 days for a week or two, and then that would usually lift me out of a depression. And that worked. And then I was like, I always take these just to, like, lift out of a depression, but I wonder if I could like feel good. And so I just like kept on that regiment, and then I like felt like really good. I didn't realize I was like ramping up into a mania that like I had never experienced before. And then I was like, oh, could I feel great? And I like kept on go, and then I felt great. And then I learned a very important lesson, which is like, if you're feeling great in life, just leave great alone. Great is fucking terrific. You don't want to find out what's after great. But I kept on going. Then I threw some DMT and some ayahuasca on top of that, and then I launched into like a full manic episode with some bits of psychosis in the beginning. But then like what really happened was I just completely stopped sleeping. And then my thoughts got like life just got very confusing as I was manic and not sleeping, and still did mushrooms again sometime after that. But then I just didn't come down, and I was like tripping for like a month or something before I was like taken to a hospital a couple times, and then eventually like was put in a psych ward and medicated. And that was not too far before when you and I bumped into each other for the first time. And yeah, so then I'd been skittish about psychedelics ever since. In fact, I feel like I'm really just kind of getting back into them in a meaningful way, because I was so skittish and I didn't really trust myself. So I was just like little bits at a time, or I'd find something like ketamine, or like, oh, 2CB, that works well, and I can tell it's not like getting me in a like manic state or something. Um, but skittish about like mushrooms and DMT, which are like historically the two like loves of my life. And so yeah, and then like also I lost my mind again, not psychedelic related, in 2020 for like a month, and ended up in a psych ward for the second final time. Learned a lot from that, but it was also I just lost a lot of respect for the psychedelic community during COVID. They didn't care for me either. Being someone that talked to scientists and virologists and epidemiologists, and there's some kill the messenger type stuff happening. But anyway, so I kind of thought I was out of the psychedelic space entirely, and it really wasn't until I just had a chance to like, I had always wanted to like add visuals, and I love the art side of the psychedelic community so much. And so the opportunity to get to add the visuals is like, you know what, I'm just gonna make the thing I started, and whatever, even if like my heart's not as into this as it used to be. And then it kind of like got me back into it a little bit, especially like recently I had some like really really meaningful psychedelic experiences, like just in the nick of time to remind me like, oh yeah, this is why we play the game. This is why these things are important.
It sounds like gambling, but it's also like
Yeah,
high
yeah,
reward. And I
it's
get it,
true, man.
I've done it
I
with
honestly,
others.
honestly, I would even say that the stakes aren't that crazy. I would say that there's like, for a lot of people, under normal conditions, relatively low risk. I mean, and this is coming from someone whose DMs are flooded with absolute fucking psychopaths that have lost their goddamn minds. And so I've seen the dark side of it. But I see you laughing a little too hard at that.
It's not like I don't have some relations
yeah,
that I grew up
yeah,
with. You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that I yeah, the potential payoffs. I mean, I could go. We'll have to have another conversation sometime because I could go on and on about it.
So let's talk about just high level generally. I'm working towards closing in like 5-10 minutes here. Like,
Sure.
what do you think things like LSD 2CB can be revolutionary for art in of different varieties?
Yeah, I mean, I've just seen. I mean, are people like getting inspired in other ways? And certainly, you don't need psychedelics to become an artist. But I mean, um, those those experiences that are like otherworldly. I mean, I think just trying to articulate some and trying to pull out some of what I view as like kind of a multiverse in our subconscious. I have less the view of like the mystical take on things, but most artists tend to have more of a mystical take. Whatever does it for you. Trying to reproduce some of the visuals. I mean, that is just such a challenge. I mean, I mean, the idea that someone like Alex Gray, whose art, I don't know, like if you took, I wonder what would happen if you took some of that work and showed it to people in the 40s or something like that. They'd be like, what the fuck is this scary shit? It's confusing or whatever. But like, but the idea that like kind of before his stuff, like it paved the way for this whole generation of people that suddenly had this light bulb go off, like, oh, you can paint it, you can like pull it out, you can draw it, you can actually make the visual representation of what that space was like. It seems impossible when you're in the moment. And often people say the same with like psychedelics being this ineffable experience that you can't articulate. As someone that is a science communicator and
Yeah.
comedian, I'm like, oh, I fucking love that challenge. Like you're telling me that I can't describe that experience. I'll take a whack at it. I think that's really inspiring, and I think it's the same for so many visual artists and musicians and everything. I mean, look at what it did to music in the 60s, and now think about what maybe it will be doing to other fields and maybe
Mm-hmm.
engineering and everything else. I will say that there's like this idea that you're like pulling it, like look, I think if you're a plumber and you do psychedelics, you could potentially like solve some issues or learn something or think about plumbing in some new way where you like either invent something or better at your job in some way or have some like really inspired insight. But where I differ from many people's perspective of psychedelics, I don't think so. I have no plumbing experience. I don't think that I can like smoke DMT and get information on plumbing. Like, and then I like download
You've met those people though.
a plumbing skill. I've met so many of those people, and and so it's like, it's like, what are you putting into it? It's also just like, what are you setting your mind up for at night? Like my best self, which is not my usual self, is like reading an inspiring book before bedtime so that my subconscious can churn on those ideas a little bit. I think that,
Mm-hmm.
psychedelics, when used in that way, can absolutely be like, you know, uh, unlike anything else out there in terms of a kind of creative hack of sorts.
Yeah, totally.
And
I'm
can
with
last
you
for
in that.
so long, like a dose. That's like for like months of inspiration. Months of inspiration. What the fuck in life ever gives you months of inspiration? Nothing. What, a vacation, a good book? Nah.
Well, Burning Man, but there's plenty of acid there.
Right.
So here's one final question from a viewer. Do you fear that commercialization of psychedelics will destroy their potential?
I go back and forth with this. I mean, it's fucking lame right now. It's like it's problematic. Psychedelics are just so goddamn problematic in so many ways. Anyway, it would, like, I'm actually a pro, like, I would love to have like regulated, like, these things have lab results and we actually know what's in them and we actually know the exact accurate dose that is in this thing, and we've actually figured out
We're
how
getting
much
there in Colorado. It's
psilocin.
amazing.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
that is so exciting, and that's so, like, for
Mhm.
harm reduction and everything. Because and the other thing with harm reduction, it should be. I think maybe it's a framing where you say like experience optimization, because there's this, like, also like the harm reduction, that's going to hit everyone a little bit differently, and there's this like machismo or the macho, like, oh, harm, I'm tough, I can take it or whatever, but instead of, if you are able to have the right dose, set and setting, know what you're, just to have all of the potential concerns that might arise in the mind once the subconscious starts, once you're in an altered state and the subconscious goes, wait, what the fuck is happening, and you're on that upswing, to have the sense of confidence of like, no, I did exactly this dose, and as unpredictable as any psychedelic can be, at least I know, like, this is, this dose has like a kind of range of experience for me. And I mean, it's a whole lot less sketchy than what things were like in the late 90s, and like, and I don't know, I mean a lot of the problems with the commercialization isn't so much the commercialization as like the people getting into like the gray area stuff. It's like, we're going to call this Amanita muscaria so that we can legally sell it, but the clientele wants an actual trip, doesn't know that that's not what Amanita muscaria is going to deliver, so we're going to put some 4-ACO DMT in there, hoping that no one's going to test this stuff. Then someone shows up in the hospital, and then you go like, oh, well, we didn't know that this was an Amanita. The supplier said this. And then the supplier says, well, the manufacturer said this. And the manufacturer goes,
Right.
well, the grower said this. It's, and so it's the, like, the really gray area side of things, and in terms of, as bad of a rap as big pharma rightfully deserves, absolutely. I mean, there's also like the fucking wellness grifting is a market that's 5 times the size, and like, I mean, if you want to run a little experiment for yourself at home, go into a GNC and tell them you want you want to, like, you want something for staying awake, you want something for falling asleep, you want something for energy, something for muscles, something to be thin, you want something to be better at answering emails, you want a better sex drive but not too much of a sex drive, you want to make your dick bigger, you want to get along with your friends and family, they'll give you two everything. You can load up a moving truck, and then now go around to get your second moving truck and go around to every wellness boutique in town and get your fucking different boof supplements and stuff, and they'll load you up with 3 of everything. Now go into a pharmacy and ask for one of everything and see what happens. They're gonna call the fucking cops on you because that shit actually works, because it actually does something. Like, yeah, there's a fucking horrifying side effects, and you know that because they're forced to say that at the fucking end of every commercial for probably things that could probably benefit a lot of people. But can you imagine if you had to give disclaimers like that for half of the like wellness shit going
Yeah, like think
on
about
out
that
there,
disclaimer
in,
actually
like
even for
head
psilocybin.
shops? Oh my god. Like you
Yeah,
wouldn't
you
even,
might turn
it
into
would be an
this
hour.
for 8 hours. Yeah.
So it's tricky. My favorite answer is I don't know. But yeah, it's gonna be weird. The corporate side of things is going to be weird. There's also not a market in the way that there is for weed. Like, who's doing psychedelics? I mean, weed. People are smoking weed every day.
Yeah.
I just found out people are doing ketamine every day. I didn't even know that. I thought that was like a couple people.
Oh yeah. Not
Wow.
great.
Wow, that is
And
not
you know,
good.
to make sure I stay true here to everybody, it's like prohibition is not the answer. It's like,
No.
you know, we have to develop a better culture around substance, and
Right.
putting people in cages is not the answer. I don't think. I'm open to being convinced, but I don't think that's it.
It was counterintuitive. We just tried it. We tried putting people in cages for a while. Turns out, just made everyone's life better. No, I don't think that's
Right.
right.
All right, Shane. So where can people find your special and your website and your tours and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so the special is actually free on the 800-Pound Gorillas YouTube channel. So there you go. The trips, the first dose is already out. The second dose will be out on YouTube May 19th. But if you're looking to have like a bicycle day party, you'll be able to purchase it early ahead of time, so you can have it before everyone else on April 13th, and then you can throw a little screening party and have it before anyone else does. Then if you like the first one, the second one is twice as good. We intentionally made it so that it would raise expectation, or it would exceed expectations. And super fucking happy with it. I'm very, very proud of both of them. But it's also, the second one was really good, but it's also like, had I just opened with like ayahuasca, DMT, and ketamine material, it would have been a little bit too much for the general public. So the first one's kind of walking people into things a little bit. It's a whole lot of fun. I think people will really enjoy it.
Hell yeah. Shane Mauss, thank you so much.
Shane Mauss, MAUSS.com is just where you can find everything about me. Yeah.
Right on. Right on. So maybe I'll see you in Colorado in May. Let's hang out backstage for a minute.
Yeah. Thank you.